Hey, what's up? How's your learning going? Oh, that's great. Me? Oh, it's going great too, thanks for asking. I've been going for about 140, 150 days now, or about 4-ish months, or a sixth of the way through my master learning plan. And it's been going swimmingly, honestly. I'm still having a great time. I've learned every single day and feel like I'm making consistent progress toward my goal. About a month ago, I started the second phase of my plan. I went from just an hour a day to 90 minutes each day and added in TV shows. And it's been a ton of fun. Since I've started, I've watched a bunch of different things. I've watched comprehensible beginner videos, a short TV series, just 8 episodes, and stumbled my way through the first 2 Harry Potter books. I've watched a good amount of YouTube as well. And most recently, like just a few days ago, I started reading with an awesome new tool called Loot. It's a lot like Link if you've heard of that, but I'm very focused on the words and understanding the relationships between them, but I'll talk about that in a moment. I've also found a rhythm that works really well for me. And this is what I think has been the most useful part of my learning. Every day has basically the same things, the same activities that I'm doing, which means I never have to ask myself, oh, what should I do today? I just get to start learning. When I was doing an hour a day, I was starting by mining some simple videos and then doing 10 new Anki cards per day. And that was in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I was watching beginner videos and reading along with Harry Potter. Now, in my second stage, I start my day with Anki, however long that takes. Then I do some reading with my audiobook, and then after work, I listen to a bit more of the book and then watch some YouTube or read with Loot. And then I finish everything off with 30 minutes of mining from a native TV show. And this is working out fantastic so far. I've hit 90 minutes every day, and I'm super proud of my consistency. If you look at my Toggle report, you can see it's all a straight line across. I know that this consistency is what's going to carry me to my dream of fluency. Not only am I feeling good about that, I can also feel the language starting to make more sense. In fact, in just the last week or so, more and more sentences are starting to click. For a while, they were quite fuzzy and my understanding would be mostly a guess. But now I'm starting to gain more confidence in my understanding. And while this isn't a sign of ability, I've also noticed that it's easier to find my spot on a page when I'm reading along. For the first few months, if I lost my spot, it would take almost 30 or 45 seconds to catch up with the audiobook. But more recently, I'm noticing that it's just a few seconds. I think I'm getting more comfortable with the speed, rhythm, and I'm able to parse the written language faster. Words also make more sense. I still frequently look up words that I already know, but not as much as in the beginning. I'm totally fine looking up the same word a bunch of times, but I won't lie and say that it doesn't feel quite nice for things just to make sense. At this point, I know about 1,000 to 1,500 words, give or take, but my estimate is that only about half of those are easy, where they just, again, make sense. The nice and sort of annoying part about Czech, though, is that a lot of words can be modified with other pieces to make a slightly different version of that word. Like in English, how go in, go out, and go out with all have pretty different, yet kind of similar meanings. Sort of the same goes with Czech, I think. I'm still figuring it out. But the annoying part is that I frequently don't recognize the related words since I'm still getting used to the base word. But it's coming along. It's sort of like how you might fool a baby by putting on a mustache and glasses, but your friend would see you right away and tell you that you look like an idiot. When I have more familiarity with the base words, I'm sure that the variants will become a lot more clear. In fact, I've already experienced this a little bit when I review cards that I learned a long time ago, but now I notice that they're actually 2 pieces that I have learned more recently. But not everything is sunshine and daisies. There are a few things that are pretty annoying about the process. First, I ran out of beginner materials a long time ago. There just aren't comprehensible channels out there with the concentration of content needed to make progress. Since I started, I've spent about 50 hours with beginner content made for Czech learners, but the thing is, I rewatch stuff a lot. Like, most of those videos I rewatched 5 or more times. My estimate is that I only have about 10 to 15 hours of beginner content total. I'm sure that's not all that's out there, but if there's more, I either don't want it or couldn't find it. If I couldn't find it, that's fine. That's on me. But there's also a lot of stuff that I just don't want to use. There's so much stuff focused on grammar and rote memorization that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. There was also some paid materials, but I decided not to buy them because the sources they were from didn't inspire me that they'd be worth the relatively high cost. Which is also fine. Not everything has to be made perfectly for me. But I do think that there's a gap in the learning market, not only for Czech learners, but for lots of languages, where inspired creators and native speakers could grow a large, passionate following of learners by providing and creating engaging content for adult learners. In fact, I am working on several video scripts about this issue, so get subscribed if you don't want to miss that. Another frustration is the lack of subtitles. Most things in Czech don't seem to have subtitles. Even the streaming service I use only has subtitles for the shows that they've produced recently, which means there just aren't that many shows for me to watch at this stage. It's worked out fine so far. The shows that do have subs are quite good, but I'm worried that I'll run out quite quickly. And I assume that is even worse for smaller languages or languages without high average incomes. Hopefully, the leaps forward in subtitling technology will be a huge help in this aspect as the cost of subtitling goes down and becomes more of a no-brainer. There's a site that I came across which already supports like 30 languages for human-made subtitles at around $2 a minute. That means a whole feature film would be like $250 to subtitle at Netflix standards of quality, and only about $100 for a TV episode. For the cost of a production or streaming service, that's basically nothing. So I'm hoping it takes off and more media has high quality subtitles. It improves literacy, supports people with disabilities, and makes it easier to learn languages. So for me, that's a win-win-win. Okay, getting off that soapbox and onto another one, there also aren't very many graded readers in Czech, which is another bummer. I'd love to read at my level, which is very low. If some native Czech speaker is watching this and likes writing stories and fiction, write some graded readers. In fact, anyone who likes to write and would maybe like to make a little side money, consider graded readers. I personally would love to pay a few bucks a month for various short ebooks with compelling and fun stories written in simple language. They don't even need to be long or perfectly thought out. Just make simple stories that adults might enjoy and boom. I'll probably make a video about this too once I've done more research and thought about the idea more. But seriously, Czech learners, my inbox is always open. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I've recently been reading with a tool called Lute, or Learning Using Texts. It's been super fun and really helpful for my comprehension and understanding of Czech. I've been reading a web novel at the suggestion of Clayton, since they tend to be a little bit easier than true books, since they're written by regular, passionate people. And using Lute makes it really fun to go through and make my web of known words and highlight the words that I know and put in definitions and all that. I've only been doing it for about a week, so I'll make a video when I've used it for a bit longer. Man, I'm really giving myself a lot of work with all these video promises. Anyway, I should wrap things up here, but before I do that, I want to talk about my master plan again and update my own thinking of it. I think things are going really well. In fact, it's almost too easy right now. I'm finding 90 minutes per day very easy to keep up with. I think I'm going to keep it like that for a while and not change things up yet though. But I've also been thinking about the 500 hours shift, which is about 300 days into my learning, so I'm about half the way there. That's when my listening shift is going to happen. And my plan is to do no new Anki cards, so only reviews, and start doing more pure reading to replace that vocab growth that I was getting from Anki. And then spend the rest of the time, about 2 hours at that point, on just listening. So TV shows, movies, YouTube. I'm not sure about sentence mining, but my guess is that I'll be tired of it at that point. I'll have been doing it for the better part of a year, so I'll probably not worry about it. I might do some mining on things that I can't hear or that I want to just save for later. But we'll get there when we get there. This whole part of the process is pretty far in the future. All right, well, thank you so much for listening to me talk about my learning. If you enjoyed this, make sure that you're subscribed to hear about my next update, which probably won't be for a few months. But in the meantime, the channel is going to be full of tons more content for you to improve your language learning. Oh, and speaking of which, let me know how it's going. The comment section is open and I'd love to hear what you're focused on and what your plan is. Best of luck out there, and as always, happy immersing.